Hello, everyone. It's a beautiful day in New York City, and today I'm in the neighborhood of Chelsea to see some really great exhibits that I cannot wait to share with you. Also, if you're new to this channel, or maybe you just haven't subscribed yet, feel free to hit that subscribe button and you'll get notified every time I put out a new video. The first stop of the day is going to be to Hauser and Wirth Gallery to see an exhibit of works by Mark Bradford. And I was very fortunate to be able to hear Bradford actually give a walkthrough of this exhibit, and it was really, really special. The exhibit is across all three gallery spaces that Hauser has in this building, and the works in this show explore the complex nature of displacement and the, quote, predatory forces that feed on populations driven into motions by crisis. The two largest works in this room are inspired by European tapestries and how they represented the power of their owners. And the flora and fauna captured in the tapestry-like paintings are indigenous to the area around Blackdom, which is an all-black settlement founded in the New Mexico desert in 1903 by two former slaves. Many families migrated there for greater economic opportunities as well as freedom from racial discrimination. A notable figure in these works is the jaguar, because the jaguar is a predator. It's a symbol for those predatory forces that I spoke about earlier. And some examples of this could be everything from organizations like the KKK or even diseases like AIDS. This work is a bird's eye view of the city plan of Blackdom. Unfortunately, I didn't grab any footage from the second floor gallery space where there was a video work, but This is the fifth floor gallery space, and it features four canvases that continue to explore the great migration of African Americans out of the South. If you look closely, you can see that these are railroad charts showing travel distances between railroad centers in the United States from the 1920s. And the toned down color palette of these works compared to the ones downstairs is intentional. The sober palette is meant to exude a sense of, quote, urgency in uprooting oneself in the face of catastrophe. In the center of the room is a sculpture titled Death Drop, and it's an enlarged sculpture of Mark Bradford's own body in a death drop pose. And if you're not familiar with what this is, it's a dance move popular in ballroom culture. And the sculpture is inspired by Bradford's experience living through the AIDS crisis in the 80s, and it kind of holds a dual meaning. So the pose highlights performance through its nod to this popular dance move, as well as persecution with its almost Christ-like posture. The next stop is Gagosian Gallery to see the first solo exhibit that Harold Ancart has had with them since they announced his representation last year. The exhibit is titled Paintings, and it features two large-scale landscape paintings as well as a series of paintings depicting a tree motif. And through them, he really plays well with color, texture, and shape in order to create a place for escapism. When Joan Mitchell spoke about her work, she talked a lot about not actually painting a landscape, but painting the feeling she got when looking at a landscape. And I think Ancart does a similar thing. He captures the feeling of when you want to be alone and you kind of look out to the abyss, especially on some element of nature, like a body of water or a tree or mountain, because you want that feeling of powerlessness to wash over you, releasing you of your need to feel this artificial sense of control. Or at least that's what I feel when I really sit there and look at these works. We're now heading over to Lehmann Maupin to have an early look at Hernan Boss's sixth solo exhibit. And this one is titled The Conceptualists Volume 2. So he started this conceptualist series in 2021, exploring how, quote, a variety of obsessive pursuits that deem strange under everyday circumstances might be rationalized or even championed when considered as conceptual art. If you're not familiar with what a conceptual artist is, it's an artist who prioritizes the idea or the concept behind their artwork over the aesthetic or visual aspects of it. This is important to know because the works in this exhibit are inspired by Boss's personal appreciation of conceptual artists, as well as his ongoing exploration of eccentricity. Each work in the Conceptualist series depicts a fictional character, a conceptual artist who is mesmerized by his eccentric creative pursuits. Art is haunting their everyday existence. And there's kind of a fun irony present in the fact that while Boss is depicting these conceptual artists and their ideas, the works themselves have such an aesthetic quality to them thanks to his rich use of color and texture. And at first glance, they could come across as the very opposite of conceptual art. I always enjoy Boss's work, again, not just because it's really aesthetically pleasing, in my opinion, but because it seems like he's having fun questioning why we make art and how it can impact society and become part of the cultural beliefs and ideas and values that we share. The next stop is Petzel Gallery to see an exhibit of works from the artist Seth Price. Sometimes it's hard at first glance to know what these works are made of. Are they digital? Are they printed? And this is actually something I'm running into more and more at gallery shows. Some that come to mind are works from Donna Juanca, Avery Singer, Urs Fischer. So for these works, it turns out it's a bit of a combination of everything. I actually love that the press release from the gallery was just a couple of paragraphs of Price describing how he makes the works. It's kind of fun to imagine that process as he's talking about it. So I'm just going to read for you what he said so you can imagine it too while you enjoy them. He says, quote, "Making art with extremely different tools and media helps you take control and lose it, back and forth, over and over. I work on these paintings with brushes and pens and fingers and sometimes my feet. Recently, I've also been suggesting words to an AI, and we go back and forth until I get an image that I like. I apply it to the painting using a reverse transfer technique often used for shirts and stickers, and I print the image on film and lay it face down on liquid plastic poured on the painting. And when I lift the film, the image transfers into the liquid, usually a little raggedy. While it's wet, I can finger paint in it or tilt it to let it run or blow on pigments and powders, and then I go back in with a brush. When the painting starts to feel like a problem, I photograph it and put the photo in a 3D cinema program where I add simple virtual objects like planes, tubes, hemispheres, and algorithmic patterns. I print these back onto the real painting at a large industrial facility. This is risky because one error can destroy something that I've worked on for months. It happened to two paintings that were supposed to be in this show. And I'm dwelling on the technical side of things here because when I make work, that's pretty much my entire focus. Art lets all the big questions stow away for the ride when it goes about its business addressing immediate and tangible and formal matters." He goes on to speak more about why he likes creating in this way, but I think the most profound thing that he said is, quote, "I like working in this lineage where the tools of the moment get at the feeling of the moment and the tools of all time get at something deeper." The next stop is Kasmin Gallery to see the German artist Jan-Ole Schiemann. This is his second exhibit with Kasmin Gallery. I had the pleasure of seeing his first exhibit with Kasmin back in 2019 before the pandemic. The show is titled New Paintings, and it features, you guessed it, new paintings from the artist. So he's really known for creating these abstract paintings using various shapes and forms. I really find his work to be very easily identifiable. He has such a distinct style. And while these paintings are a little bit different, he's evolved this style a bit, they have this glimmer of the shapes that he's known for. But the difference is that he's using a more minimal color palette and he's leaving more space on the canvas so that you can really appreciate the gesture component present in the paint splatters and the dribbles. He's also utilizing charcoal, ink, and acrylic paint on the canvas to achieve this effect. Our last show of the day is at the Flag Art Foundation, and this is actually part 2 of another show they had earlier this year featuring mostly new or never before exhibited artworks by over 24 female or female identifying and non-binary artists. Some names will sound very familiar to you. I will try to leave them all below. The title of the show is In New York, Thinking of You, and it's inspired by a song by the Norwegian singer-songwriter Marie Ulven, aka Girl in Red. All of the works in the show were either created specifically for the show or were chosen by the artist to, quote, respond to the often conflicting emotions and experiences laid bare in the song. Some examples are desire, longing, melancholy, tenderness, vulnerability, power, alienation, and quiet reflection. If you want to give it a listen, I will leave it linked in the description box below. Because it's such a beautiful day, I'm going to take a walk down the High Line on my way home. It's finally starting to feel like spring in New York, especially on days like this when you can really enjoy the beautiful landscaping designed by the famous Piet Oudolf. And that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all in my next video.